Hey, what's going on, world of YouTube? Today, we're going to discuss that four-letter word that we all love to hate: fear. Now, being able to understand fear and what it is, what it was used for, and how it can help us may ultimately help you control it, especially in a stuff hits the fan situation. So let's take a trip and see what fear really is. Let's give it a breakdown and take some time to understand how it's become part of our life, but also how it's actually become over commercialized. And now that we've been able to experience fear in our movies, music, the things that we do on a regular basis, that the fight or flight response may not be exactly what we think it is or what it's supposed to be. So let's get it going. What is fear? Fear is a natural, powerful, and primitive human emotion. It involves a universal biochemical response as well as a high individual emotional response. Fear alerts us to the presence of danger and the threat of harm, whether the danger is physical or psychological. But sometimes fear can stem from real threats, but it can also originate from imagined dangers. Knowing the two will help you. From a biochemical standpoint, fear is a natural emotion and survival mechanism. When we confront a perceived threat, our bodies respond in a specific way. Physical reactions to fear, they can include sweating, increased heart rate, and high adrenaline levels that make us extremely alert. The physical response is also known as fight or flight. That's when the body prepares itself to engage in combat or run. The emotional response to fear, on the other hand, that one is kind of personalized because fear involves some of the same chemical reactions in our brains that positive emotions like happiness and excitement do. Feeling fear under certain circumstances can be seen as fun, like when you watch a scary movie, when you go to a haunted house, different things like that. But some people are adrenaline junkies, thinking about extreme sports and other things that induce fear. Now, there are some symptoms of fear. Fear, of course, can be physical and emotional, but can inhibit symptoms like chest pain, chills, dry mouth, nausea, rapid heartbeat, shortness of breath, sweating, trembling, and upset stomach. And these things can actually make you think that you are physically ill when it's just the emotional response. Now we've talked about fear and some of the responses to fear. Let's go ahead and think about situational fears, whether irrational or rational. When you speak about fear, you actually have to sit down and think about the situations you may be put in and how you will prepare for them mentally. We spoke about that in the last video. But speaking on fear in general, some people say, oh, well, I'm not afraid of the dark. That is fine, especially when you're in the comforts of your own home, because those comforts and you having knowledge of your living area, your space, and what your dangers are, those things kind of create and make it a little easier not to fear the dark in that specific situation. Now let's go ahead and take all that away from you. Take away your house, your home, your comforts, and put you in the middle of the woods at night. So you really have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Now, as you begin to make things that ultimately kind of put your fear at ease, like starting a fire, getting the necessities, food, water, and shelter, they begin to dissipate. Fear will, of course. Looking at that and seeing that it's all situational in the fear of the unknown, or the unknown causing fear. Sit down and take a look at all the things you could run into in a stuff hits the fan situation, whether it be lack of food, lack of water, survival, sickness. We have way too many commodities right now. And when they're all gone, what will happen? When you can't go to the gas station and just fill up on gas and drive to where you want to go, or when the stores no longer have food, and the threat of running out of food or not feeding your family becomes a major threat. What about when others want to take your food or the preps you have? How will you cope with fear? And not necessarily um, dealing with the heart racing, palm sweating, immediate fear, but the fear of the unknown of what might happen in the future. So being able to prepare for these events helps out. Now we're going to get into how fear can be useful. Because don't just think fear is a bad thing. Fear will keep you alive. Not necessarily distrust. But remember, you can use fear to your advantage, and we're going to get into that here in just a second. So just remember that regardless of whatever situation you're in, that fight or flight response is created by a chemical reaction in the body, biochemical reaction within the body that is caused by fear. So let's get into it and get into the good parts of what fear can do. Now, the first benefit of fear is heightened awareness. When I say heightened awareness, you're not going to spontaneously turn into one of the X-Men or a superhero. But heightened awareness at a basic level, it guides the fight or flight response and it helps keep you safe. Fear heightens your senses and awareness. It keeps you alert and helps for better preparation. This can include sense of smell, hearing, taste, touch. Just everything overall gets heightened up to help you survive. Next is enlightenment. That's kind of a stage of fear. There's a point where you come to where you ask if someone else ever faced this fear, how did they cope with it? Talking to somebody about your fear. Taking the time to understand what makes you fearful can offer some useful insights to help prepare for fear and even work on reducing the fear or its triggers. Learning from the past. It is rare to totally eliminate fear, but practicing how to control and manage it can help. And this is when you've acknowledged it and you begin to enlighten yourself on the things that can cause. Now, next up is razor sharp focus. Your focus and concentration, it'll help you create goals that'll set you up for success, even in tragedy or something that does scare you. And this, you'll be able to break out and rise above fear in some ways. But remember, fear keeps you alert. It keeps you surviving and progressing. So just be sure to move in the right direction when you are facing fear, and that focus will come into play, making you do things that you never even knew you were capable of. So use fear to your advantage, not always to your disadvantage, and letting it cripple you. Next up is leveling up. Talk about taking it to the next level. Fear can push you to do things that you never thought you'd accomplish, especially in the physical realm and the mental realm. Climbing fences that you thought were too high, jumping, swimming, things that you never thought you could accomplish on your own. There have even been tales of tiny little people lifting up cars. The fear kicked in, the adrenaline kicked in, and almost gave them, for split seconds, superhuman powers long enough to save loved ones or save themselves. Fear can put you in beast mode. And when I say that, I mean getting ready physically, mentally, emotionally, exercising, preparing different things for whatever may come towards you, whether it's preparing and getting weapons, training yourself from a physical standpoint as far as martial arts, guns, knives, however you need to train yourself for whatever upcoming battle, even if it may not occur. But the fear will make you prepare yourself so that when the fight comes to you, you're ready for the fight. Next, fear can put things in perspective. Like, is it worth it? Are certain things worth the risk in order to get the reward? Is the reward actually worth it? Is the risk worth it? What do you value and what can you lose versus what do you stand to obtain? And that's what fear will also make you do. Is it really worth climbing a mountain just in order to get apple? Especially in a stuff hits the fan situation? Or is it worth going out risking your life to gain food when you already have food that you had stored and stashed away? So fear can guide you both ways, good and bad. Now, that was an overview of fear, what it does, its causes, and how it can help. Now, even though fear is a natural response, don't let it cripple you. Utilize it for the good. Make sure that you can actually use your fear to prepare you for whatever's coming up. So, I hope you found this information useful. I hope you'll be able to actually use it in your everyday life before stuff hits the fan, and even after stuff hits the fan. Control yourself, control your mind, sit down and meditate, use mindfulness, put yourself in the situations mentally just to help you prepare. And ultimately, I'm not saying that you'll completely overcome your fear, but you'll be able to use it in a more constructive way. So, once again, thanks for stopping in. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you on the next one. All right? Peace. And if you like the content, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And as always, have a blessed evening.